Here on Bibliotech, we've had on several authorpreneurs who write things called novels. However, today we are extremely fortunate to have a guest who writes actual literature. Starting in 1969 with their first book, gonna have to start it over, it's too slow. Sorry, the problem is that the camera is like, that's the last two lines. Here on Bibliotech, we've had on several authorpreneurs who write things called novels. However, today we are extremely fortunate to have a guest who writes actual literature. Starting in 1969 with her first book, The Edible Woman, she has released over 40 books of fiction, poetry, and critical essays, including The Handmaid's Tale, Oryx and Crake, and her latest release, The Year of the Flood. Please join me in welcoming she who needs no introduction, a giantess of literature, the great and powerful Margaret Atwood. Margaret?
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So this is your latest, The Year of the Flood.
This is my latest, The Year of the Flood. There it is.
So if you should go out and buy this right now. It's out in stores everywhere. So it came out just in September, correct? So
yes.
So it's been out
a couple of
weeks or so now. Okay. So we actually met on Twitter, oddly enough.
Yes, we did.
And which was great, by the way. And
you were an early person on Twitter, on my Twitter thing.
I was. Actually, I saw someone had tweeted that you were online. I was like, really? I was very surprised, to be completely honest. And no comment on you. It was actually, there have been some other authors that are what I call traditional authors who have been, they're established, they've been around for some period of time. And they typically, my interactions with them have been of such nature that they seem to be distrustful of a lot of the new technologies. They're not really embracing them, whereas you have just been consuming them. And we were talking a little bit before the show. You're clearly very knowledgeable in everything that's been going on in the online space for the last last decade or two, from what I can tell. And you're on Twitter. Now, how did this happen? How did you become?
All right.
How do those two things cross?
How did those things happen? Yeah. Okay. How it happened was that when we were thinking about how to do this book,
yeah.
We decided to do it as a combination of a book launch, a musical and dramatic event presentation, which is what we're doing at Royce Hall tomorrow night, because there is music associated with the hymns of the God's Gardeners within this book,
yep.
And also an interactive website, and also as a fundraiser. So the interactive website was part of the fundraising aspect for essentially bird conservation.
Okay.
And that came about because I am the honorary joint president of the Rare Bird Club within BirdLife International, which is a large international bird organization which is in 108 countries. So they said to me, how do we make it known to people who don't know about the mess we're in? How do we make it known? And I said, through the arts. And they said, how do you do that? Mm-hmm. So I was therefore committed. So I hand-built the website with a company called Scott Thornley, who are a design company. And they got it coded by another company called MetaWave.
Okay.
So we worked together to develop the various elements of this website, which is www.yearoftheflood.com, And then they said to me, well, Margaret, you have to have a Twitter feed.
And you said,
So I said,
what's that?
what's that? And then they said, you should have a blog. So I did know what a blog was.
You did know what a blog was, okay.
I did know.
Yep.
I just didn't know how much work it was going to be.
Yes.
But, so we put a blog site on the website and we put a Twitter feed. That meant that I had to go on Twitter and open an account.
Yep.
As soon as I did that, I found that there were 2 other Margaret Atwoods on there already.
Oh, really?
One of them with my picture.
Oh, so you found someone who was faking being the real Margaret
There was
Atwood.
a fake Margaret Atwood.
Now, what'd you do about that?
They hadn't said much yet. Well, I said to my friend McLean Greaves, who is the authority on all things Twitter and such.
Yeah.
He was a friend of Jason's.
Ah,
I just
Jason
found out.
Calcanis.
Yes.
Yep.
What do I do about these people pretending to be me? I don't know what he did, but they disappeared.
They went away. Oh, really? So they might be, wearing the cement galoshes
They might,
or something.
yeah, they might be that.
Yeah.
So then McLean, once I'd got all this up and had my little Twitter with 2 followers and I'd made 1 or 2 tweets.
No, you actually, there was one, I remember one day where suddenly several people that I know were tweeting like, Margaret Atwood's on Twitter. And
Jason had 3 or 4 Twitter pals, one of them being, McLean had these pals, one of them was Jason.
Yeah.
And they put me out on their own Twitters.
And now, just so everyone knows, your Twitter feed is at Margaret Atwood, so just your name spelled the way it is on your novels.
Yes, it is.
So that's it. So anyone can go follow you at Margaret Atwood.
Yes, I got a lot of early tweets saying things like, "Is it really you?"
Sure, absolutely. Well, there's a lot of people, like you say, who fake, being celebrities of one form or another.
So of course I said, well, of course it's me, but I would say that, wouldn't I?
Sure, absolutely.
How do you know it's really, really me? You don't.
You don't. Well, you do now because you're here. We can see you. So now everyone knows.
Or I might be lying.
Well, you might be. I doubt it, but it's possible. So now that you've used Twitter, what do you think of it? What do you think of sort of the big hive mind and living in that universe for a little bit now? I guess you've been in it for a few months now.
Yes.
What's sort of your reaction to it?
Since August the 15th, roughly.
Yeah.
My reaction to it is that it's not to be confused with writing.
Mm-hmm. Huh, yes.
Because you sometimes get sneery comments made about it, such as the young people on Twitter, they can't write English and stuff like that. And I say, well, actually, it's not writing in that sense. It's more like signaling. It's very condensed form. And it is sort of a game, I'm sure, that all of us play to make our tweets come out at exactly 140 characters.
Yep. We all know
no
that
more,
game.
no fewer. So it's a new form of communication using symbols. And it's got something in common with the old telegram.
Yes.
So short form had to be short because it cost more if it was long. Telegram, however, you send only to one person. Whereas a Twitter, it's more like standing on the top of a hill with the semaphore flags, and anybody who's looking can see
it's broadcast.
what you're signaling.
Yep.
And typically, sometimes it is things like I just put on my socks.
Right.
But quite frequently it refers you to other sites. And once you learn how to do TwitPic, which I've learned how to do.
Look at you, TwitPic. Nice job.
Then you can put a code on that. If the person pushes that, they get the picture that you've put up. And of course, the next thing that you have to learn to do is TinyURL.
Yes,
Very
TinyURL
helpful.
is your best friend.
TinyURL or Bitly.
Yep.
Those things, which take a big string of code and condense it into a much
Very
smaller
small one.
and therefore it gives you more letters. And there is a Twitter going right through that Twitterverse right now, because I did an interview with Powell's Bookstore in Oregon, and the bottom part of that was, what do you think of Twitter? So I rabbit on about that, and they're all twittering that, oh, look at what Margaret Atwood says about Twitter. It's very
Bit of an echo chamber.
It's very self-referential in that way.
It can be that. So, so what other technologies are you on Facebook, for example?
I haven't gone to Facebook. I'm not sure I want all my high school friends.
You don't want your high school, your friends,
Not sure.
and your friends actually mixing
well,
together. I understand that.
No, we won't say that out loud. Actually, they can find me when they want to. I assume everybody knows where my publisher lives.
Sure. So,
But I'm not sure how Facebook works. Do you recommend it?
Well, I mean, I think you could probably get a fan page. I think that I would recommend you do that.
Why?
A lot of authors are establishing, sort of a beachhead in Facebook. Well, here's the funny thing. I usually deal with sort of the new media authors, which basically translates to all of us who like spent the last several years trying to get published. No one would listen to us. We then used new media in some fashion, Facebook, Twitter, audiobooks, to get noticed, to build an audience without a publisher. And then we went out and approached publishers. So that's the way it's
so you
people
get
are
the
doing it
audience
now.
first. So, it's
you
what
may
used
not
to happen with literary magazines.
Yes.
People said get published in them first, and then the publisher will notice you.
Yes.
So now it's happening on the social media.
Yes.
In the same way, but not quite the same way, because the literary magazine had an editor, and there was a gatekeeper. Whereas
Yes.
this way, you throw it out there and
Anybody can
see
see it.
how many pigeons come and
What do you
eat
think
the
about that?
pieces of bread.
Do you think that a gatekeeper is a good thing or a bad
I
thing?
think there's a self-sorting that will always go on to a certain extent. For instance, if you put your stuff out there and everybody hated it, you would then not get a publisher.
Right. Sure. Absolutely.
And many is the time that somebody has been accepted by a publisher and it has come out in book form to a resounding thud.
Sure.
So there's no magic. In fact, it's what drives everybody crazy about publishing. It's not a business like other businesses. It's not selling beer. It's not like shoes. You can't predict anything about how the market, that is the readers, will react to anything that gets put out there. So in a way, you're in the same boat as people who go through the book form first and then go on to the social media, except you did it backwards.
We did it backwards.
But
yeah.
there's still a selecting audience out there somewhere, people who really like what you're doing, or nobody does, or some do and others don't. It's the same thing,
Yep.
but
Okay.
distributed in a different way.
So you think that ultimately the gatekeeping is going on still?
The gatekeeping is going on in the mind of the individual reader. In that case, when you wide broadcast it, you could go to the animal world and think of it as the R form and the K form of reproductive strategy. So the oyster form, which is the R form, is put out as many little oysters as you can, because a lot of them are going to disappear. The K form is you, large gorilla couple, produce only one baby gorilla, and then you take very, very good care of it. So what you're doing is the oyster form.
Yes, we're doing it oyster style, absolutely, without a doubt.
Put it out there, see how it sorts itself out, and in your case, it got results.
It did.
But it is not a magic formula
No, it isn't.
for everyone.
It's not.
It's not. There's nothing that always works.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I read somewhere that it took you. You said it took you about 16 years before you felt like you could make a living at writing.
Well,
And you were doing other
not
jobs.
even. I felt like it took me 16 years before I could.
Yeah. Okay. So literally 16 years before
Yeah.
you could just stop doing other jobs and
That's right.
write full time.
Yeah, and my lifestyle was not luxurious at that.
Yes.
But that's starting at the age of 16. Okay, so
But you decided at 16 you wanted to be a
yeah, I
writer.
did.
So you knew.
I was ignorant.
Well, I mean, when you started, I mean, it was kind of crazy, wasn't it? Because
quite crazy.
You were. I mean, there was no role models. You
Well,
were
it was
Canadian. You were a
Canada.
woman.
I was female.
Like, how did you?
There
like,
were some dead role models. There were some dead female authors.
like Mary Shelley, maybe, but
Mary Shelley, Jane Austen, George Eliot,
yeah,
the Brontes,
sure.
Emily Dickinson. They were female. They just didn't happen to be living.
Right. But I mean, but it was crazy. I mean, we talk about this concept on the show. We call it authorpreneuring, or being an authorpreneur.
Yeah.
The reason we talk about that is one thing I noticed was I live in the internet world. I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs. I've been an entrepreneur myself, and like Jason Calcanis, our CEO of Mahalo, and there is a new breed of author now who acts like an internet entrepreneur.
Well,
but they're authors.
that's
but they're
right.
doing really the same things.
Sure, and we did that in the 60s.
You were doing that in the 60s. That's when I
Yeah.
started reading your story. I'm like going, this is the 60s version of the same thing.
That's right. Yeah, so we, in Canada in 1960, there were 5 novels published in the entire year by English-Canadian publishers in Canada. 5, count them 5. So there was a bottleneck of people who were writing, but there wasn't an outlet for that, and we were always told contradictory thing. Number one, Canadians are the same as Americans. Number two, then you would bring out your book. Some American publisher would look at it and say it's too Canadian. So what do you make of that? So we started little magazines. We started little publishing companies in the 60s. There were no author tours yet. We invented those, that generation did, starting with the coffee house reading, spreading to universities, then spreading to literary festivals, which began in the 70s. And now they're all over,
Yeah.
you know, and they are typically the place where a new writer might make a debut, the literary festivals. And then finally penetrating bookstores to a certain extent. But all of that did not exist before 1960. It was invented in that decade and in the 70s. And so you would, as an author, you would go out with your slim volume of poetry typically. It was easier to do poetry because it was short.
Right.
It was short.
Right, required very
with
little.
your slim vol, and you would end up in places that had never actually seen a live author before, and there you would be in the high school gymnasium, and you would read your poems, you would talk about them a bit, you would then sell the books yourself, you would collect the money, you would put it in an envelope, and then you would take it back and hand it to the publisher.
Wow.
So those were those days, and it was usually the Greyhound bus, and staying in some other little-known poets.
You're like a musician.
Cellar.
You're on tour, basically. You're on the road.
Yeah, and people knew each other. It was a fairly small world, so they would go and stay at each other's houses. And
now, how long did you live like that? How long did you do that?
well, of course, I wasn't out selling my poems in high school gymnasiums every day of the week.
Right, sure.
A periodic thing.
You had to actually be in high school. Amazingly.
So how long did I live like that? I think the thing is, when did publishers start realizing that they could do this too?
Okay.
I think that's the question.
Fair question.
And I would say that the age of ferment in that area was the 5 years between 1965 and 1970. And part of that was driven by the collapse of the standard high school curriculum. There were publishers who just depended on selling, you know, thousands and hundreds of thousands of Hamlets every year, or hundreds of thousands of Romeo and Juliets. And when the standard curriculum dissolved and schools started teaching individually, making individual choices, the publishers were left without their bread and butter. So they thought, well, maybe we better go in and support
Got it. They had to get
somebody
a little bit more
other than
inventive.
Shakespeare.
Yeah. That's probably a
And
good
I
thing.
did work with a master of that. His name was Jack McClelland. He had a company called McClelland and Stewart, and he made the decision to do that. And he would do anything to get publicity, really quite anything. Some of his capers are well known. He once got into a toga in a snowstorm and got himself hauled up Yonge Street in a chariot with an author of his who had written a historical romance. I mean, that's really putting yourself out there. But
that's
he was a
dedication.
He was a World War II vet, and some of those guys were quite. They loved the edgy, risk-taking stuff. So think of yourself in that category. You know, going out, trying new things, outside the box. Not believing people who say that's not how it's done.
Yeah. Carve your own way.
Carve your own way, and then see what happens, which is what we were doing then.
Yeah.
We did have a mimeograph. This was before the computers or anything, so some of our magazines were cranked out on
mimeograph. Yeah.
Do you know what those are?
Oh, I do actually. I caught the tail end of that. I was just in elementary school, I think, but I remember.
Yeah.
I remember like the blue ink and all that stuff.
The blue ink, and then you would fold them together and staple them, and they would come off all over your hands. But the early poetry magazines, a lot of them were mimeo mags.
Wow. Okay. So, but I mean, the methods really haven't changed. I mean, really is what I'm hearing. I mean, really, you were doing
do it yourself.
Yeah, the do it yourself.
You get much
carve
better.
Your own way thing
you
is
can
really
do much
you were
better
doing it then too.
Design on using computer programs.
Well, sure. So, so now let's talk about the Kindle really quickly. Now,
the Kindle.
Do you consume books on a Kindle?
I haven't seen one yet.
You have not seen a Kindle yet?
Well, for some reason we didn't get them in Canada, but I understand
that's right. I just heard
now
about that.
been some sort of international launch.
Yes, they just announced this 2 days ago, I think.
Yeah, so I will lay eyes on one while I am here.
Ah, I should have
Then
brought
I'll
mine in. I forgot
tell
to
you
bring mine
what
in.
I think.
I was going to ask
So-
you what you thought of your book on a Kindle, but I guess you don't really,
Well,
you haven't seen that yet.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it. I understand that it is on the Kindle.
It is on the Kindle. Yes,
Yeah.
I've got Oryx and Crake on my Kindle as well as Handmaid's Tale.
Uh-huh.
So, and I will have this very soon. I was actually going to go buy the actual book. I haven't.
Now,
done
when
it. I
you
will.
put things on a Kindle, do you plug it into your computer and download it, or how do you get it?
You can do that. You can also download it directly out of the air. So
Oh,
you
if
do
you
not
have
have to be.
Wi-Fi.
No.
It flies through the
No.
air through the no.
It flies through the air. You do not have to have a Wi-Fi connection. It's basically through the cell phone providers. So you could be on the beach. You could be
okay.
anywhere.
Through your cell phone.
You don't have to have a cell phone plan. Amazon provides the connectivity for you. They basically have their own WhisperNet. Is what they call it.
Okay, so they're
And
using the cell phone stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So the
So
thing that's
when
really
you
great
go
about
under
that.
when you go into a tunnel, your
Yeah, you'll-
Kindle shuts off.
Yeah,
or what?
well, it's downloaded on. It takes a very short period of time to download. So
Yeah. Once it's on, it's on.
once it's on, and it's very quick. You can purchase books on your Kindle directly.
How do you get it off?
You just erase it. You just
You
basically
erase
use
it.
you got a little like mouse cursor thing. You just
Okay.
go erase and it's gone.
Now, is it highly sensitive the way some of, dare I say, the iPhone things are, where things suddenly just go poof and you didn't mean them to do that?
No, the Kindle has been very good, with one exception. They accidentally did not, oddly enough, it was 1984 they did this with, they did not secure the rights properly. And so overnight while you were sleeping, they sent out a signal to all the
heard
awake
about that.
Kindles to erase 1984.
Yeah, and now it's
which
good
was
who's
really-
writing his paper using the Kindle and suing them.
Yeah, so they paid for it, both in PR and financially as well. So it bit them, as it should
Yeah, that would have been
actually.
upsetting.
But it's like me sneaking in your house and like taking a book off your shelf and running out the front door in the middle of the night. Like that's not cool, But this is the electronic equivalent. Would actually be like the bookseller, like Barnes and Noble coming in your house and like taking a book back and leaving some
Yeah.
change for you on the counter. You know what I mean? So,
Not too good. Not too
not
good.
cool. So
So can a Kindle be hacked?
I'm sure that it can be. Anything can ultimately be hacked. I've not heard
So
of
somebody
any.
could hack onto your Kindle and leave rude messages for you?
I haven't seen that yet.
No?
I suppose it's possible.
new. It's
but
new.
anything's possible.
Maybe I shouldn't have
realistically.
even had suggested that.
But now someone's going to do it. So nobody do that. Just be good. So, but basically, it's a sort of thing where it's a very closed environment, so it's a lot harder than say your PC would be to hack. So they've done a pretty good job of protecting it and keeping it. It's most of the time. And I've not even heard of one story. It's a very good experience. Now, the other thing that's really cool is you can download any chapter of any book. Or sorry, one chapter of any book, and so you can sample it and see if it's a
Okay.
book that you would like to buy, and which is great. You can be anywhere, and also all your books can be with you at any time. So
Well, it's going to have a big application for traveling.
yes,
And also, I was in Hong Kong just a little while ago and talking about books and all of that kind of thing. And they said, well, of course, if you have a very small apartment, you don't have room for a large library. So it's going to be, I would say, things like that, Kindles and readers of those kinds, are going to be quite popular in those environments.
yes. No,
But I'm
it's-
also hearing from people who say, no, I like my paper book and I want to get in the bathtub with it and things.
How do you think you're going to feel about it? I mean, I know you haven't seen one yet, but in your heart of hearts, when you think about the Kindle and you think about reading, you kind of go, I ain't going to do that. Or do you go, maybe? What do you think you're at?
Traveling.
So you might like it.
Well, traveling, it depends how light it is. How light is it?
It's very light.
It's very
It's
light.
a little bit heavier. It's like holding a slightly heavy bit of cardboard.
Oh, so it's really
It's
a
very
lot
light,
lighter than
yeah.
the Mac Air.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It feels.
Well, for that kind
form
of
factor is
thing-
very good.
Because there are some books that you do really only want to read once. There are other books, however, that you want to have around and keep, and you want to be able to, you become attached to their physical form.
Yes, this is true.
So there's more than one kind of reading.
Hmm.
There's lots of kinds of reading. So I think for some kinds of readings, it would be very handy. For other kinds of readings, it's probably not a substitute. And if you have a gorgeous book with wonderful pictures in it and great typesetting and things, it's probably not the answer.
Yeah, it loses the font. That's one of the big
It
complaints.
loses texture.
Yeah. So you get
So
the
is
text.
it all in the same writing?
Uh,
Do they use the same font for everything?
for the most part, yes.
So it's not a reproduction of the page in the
It
book?
is not.
Oh.
Yes.
So it's more
This
like
is what's interesting. They actually
they digitize it and put their own.
That's correct. It's their own format.
Next generation, they will digitize it, and then you will have a choice of fonts.
Yes, I hope so.
That will be more appealing.
Well, I mean, I personally, my opinion is you lose something when you don't preserve the exact
design.
page. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to be a little bit less than what it should be. And there's no pages. The other weird thing is because the user can choose the font size and the font type, the pagination, like if
There's
you're on
no
page
page
33,
numbers.
there's no page numbers. There's just regions.
So how do you find stuff?
It's by percentage in the book. So you basically have an index
A
at the
third
bottom.
through?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or 33% through or whatever. So
Oh.
it's very odd. Yeah, it's very strange. That's one of the big complaints about the Kindle. So, but other than that, there's pluses and minuses to it. And, I find myself consuming almost exclusively on the Kindle now just because I like it. Which
Can
surprised
you
me.
get newspapers on it?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
And they actually have a big one now. It's sort
A
of
big one,
newspaper
like
size.
a newspaper
Yeah.
size.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of new.
Yeah, you don't know about the business model for all of this stuff because, okay, who's going to pay the newspapers to provide the content?
Well, you have to actually. You have
Yeah.
to. You basically
You
would set up a
subscribe?
subscription
Yeah,
for it. Yeah. So
okay.
they are charging for the newspapers now.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we now know where you are in.
I'm
terms of the
open to
Kindle.
looking at it. I haven't seen one yet.
Yeah. Well, you have a decent idea. All right. Let's talk real quick about. We're getting close to running out of time, but one couple more things. When you write, now obviously you started writing on typewriters. I'm assuming.
No,
Or you were actually by pen. Okay. So longhand. Did you move to typewriters, or did you still?
I took the wrong thing in high school.
Oh, really? So never.
I took home economics.
Oh,
I know all those things that.
you know how to cook, but
Oh,
typing.
I can do that. No, I can do buttonholes,
Yeah.
ironing. Good at that.
But did you learn? So
Taking
do you
spots out.
still write longhand, or do you?
I start off longhand and then
Really?
I type, but I'm afraid to say, I'm sorry to say, it's only with several fingers.
Yeah.
But the computer was actually good for me because with the typewriter, you make a mistake, it's there.
Yeah.
So I would have to use the typist to retype all my stuff, put my notes in, and use those glue-on pieces of white paper and the little brush. And
I remember those.
all of those.
Yep.
But with the computer, of course, you can
Just
correct
backspace
on
and
screen.
It's pretty easy.
It is, however, harder to see your errors on screen than it is on a printout.
So
So typically I will transcribe into the computer. I will at some stage print out, I will correct on the page, I will put the corrections onto the e-version, and so it goes.
okay.
Publishers all want e-versions now.
Yes.
Makes it easier for them to typeset.
Yep. I understand that. So, okay. So you use Microsoft Word? Is that sort of your word processor of choice, or?
It's got the big W.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it. That's Word. I think that's Word Perfect, actually.
No, I don't think
Is it
so.
Microsoft? Oh, I
Yeah,
haven't
it's the
seen
big
it.
W.
Oh, yeah, it is Word. Sorry, my mistake. You're right.
Yeah, I use a Mac, so it's a big
Oh, it's gotta be
W
Word then.
on the
Okay.
Mac, and the bouncy W
Yes,
bounces up and down.
That must be Microsoft Word. So, the reason I asked is some of the authors now are switching over to this thing called Scrivener. So I'm assuming you haven't heard of that, but it's
Why is it
the
better?
new author's word processor.
And why is that good?
The interesting thing about it is you can basically make your scenes very atomic. So you can basically write one little bit, write another little bit. Everything's very shuffleable, and you can move it around quite a bit more.
You mean you don't have to cut and paste?
It makes the cutting and pasting a lot easier. It's very easy to sort of see your novel
easy
in a
now.
holistic format.
Okay.
In Word, it's very much like a big, long document that you have to scroll up and down through.
Okay.
This is very much more like jump around in different windows, and
This
the pieces
paginates
are
for you.
Yes, and it's basically like your novels. It's almost like everything's on little cards, and very much. It's the way a lot of the authors now tend to think this way. I have no idea whether you do or not, but these.
It's on little cards.
Well, it's conceptually like that. So conceptually, like the little bits of your novel are broken into scenes, which are then their own little documents that you can then move around and reassemble. in
Okay,
various
so
ways.
what one used to do using scissors, pieces of paper, and Scotch tape, with it spread out on the floor.
Yes, it's like that.
One can do it that way.
Yes.
Okay, I understand it.
Yeah, it's the computer equivalent of that now. So,
Yeah, okay.
Which that's probably a little bit more difficult to do in Word. So somebody made this Scrivener thing, and it just caught on like wildfire suddenly. So.
Okay, so how do you get it? You download
Just
it?
download
you
it, yeah.
buy a
I'll send you a link to it, and you can.
Oh,
in fact, I'll get you a
nice.
I'll get you a freebie from the. We had the guy on who actually wrote it a couple weeks ago. So. I'll
And
make
how
sure you
long
go.
has that been running around?
About 2 or 3 years now. So,
Okay.
but it just sort of caught fire in the last 6 months or so. among
Is
sort
it
of some
Mac
people.
compatible?
Yes, it's only on the Mac actually. So yeah. So if
Okay.
you use a Mac, then it'll work for you.
Goody goody.
Yes.
Well, I'm happy. Can I make illustrated capital letters on it?
I believe that you can. I've never tried to do that, but I'm pretty sure that you can. So, okay, well, I guess we're pretty much out of time, and so I want to thank you very much.
Thank you very
for coming
much.
on the show. Margaret Atwood, her book is The Year of the Flood. If you want to hold it up, looks like that. Go buy it. It's in stores everywhere. Thanks once again to Jason Calacanis, who makes this show possible. This is Bibliotech. We'll see you next time.